Happy Sunday, everybody. For today's DIY, I am part of a collaboration with Mama Dares to DIY, and she's the host, and the co-hosts are Terrarium and Crafts and Sweet Urban Rose. And I'll list their channels in the playlist in the description box, so you definitely want to check them out. They have some great channels, great ideas, definitely some good inspiration pieces, so definitely go check them out. So today's collaboration is to use a jar or a bottle to create anything with. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean my jars with alcohol just to get any oils or anything off of them. These jars are all candle jars. This one specifically is a Yankee Candle jar, one of those really big ones. So I'm going to start off just putting a layer of white Waverly chalk paint on it. And this is actually the first time I'm using chalk paint on glass. I don't think I've ever done, have I? I don't think I've ever done this, but I don't generally do a whole lot with, jars as far as like painting them and stuff like that. I know I've redone some with Mod Podge and color, but I don't think I've ever painted a jar. So this is a first. Oh no, that's not true. Yes, I have. I've painted glass, just not a jar. Anyway, so I gave this just one coat of the chalk paint and just got it all over. And for the my other DIY or my other jar that I'm using, I'd use the same technique, so I didn't record myself doing it, but I used the same technique to put this gesso on it. It's this stuff called gesso, and it's like a, what is it? It prepares the whatever you're going to paint. It prepares it so that the paint can stick to it. And I notice with glass, a lot of times, the paint doesn't stick to it and it'll kind of chip off or scratch off really quick. Well, with this stuff, it doesn't do that. It's like I don't know what it is. It's like a paste or something. And it sticks on there and the paint doesn't like scratch off easily. And I love it. I've been using it for a while. I've used it in other projects, and you can use it on not just glass, on other, surfaces to prepare it for paint. So, like I said, the other jar that I'm using, the next jar that I'm using for my next DIY, I did the same thing. I just used gesso. And see, these are the Yankee Candles jars, and the next jar I use is shaped like that, and this is the gesso that I use, and I will try to put a link in the description box. So I went ahead and I painted it ahead of time because you have to let it cure for 24 hours. So I did paint a jar, a couple days ago and just let it sit and let it cure. And then I did the galvanized metal technique on this jar. And so what I'm showing you now are different options as handles, because I'm going to make this look like a mini milk can. So these are hair rollers that I got at the Dollar Tree. First thing I did was I took the little metal wire piece out from the middle so that I could cut this to size. So you're just going to pick whatever size you want, and then you're going to cut it, and then you're going to cut the wire and put it back in there. The reason I did it that way is because when you cut it while it's still in there, it doesn't measure out right for some reason, so I did it separately. Anyway, so what I'm doing now is I'm taking some hot glue, I'm putting it into the openings of the little roller, and pinching it flat so that it lays flat against the jar. And be careful, because if you actually touch the tip of the hot glue to the foam roller, it will melt it. So just kind of let it fall in there. And then I didn't use these, but I have used these as handles before. I was just kind of giving you options here. You can use these, you can use shower curtains, you can use rope, you can use whatever you have. Then you just glue these two to the side and paint them, obviously. But what I used was these hooks from the Dollar Tree. I'm telling you, I use them all the time. I've said it before, so here's the proof. So you just kind of cut them. I've got these scissors that I got from Harbor Freight, and they work great to cut through metal. And these don't cut, this cuts pretty easily. So you're just going to cut the little hook shape, and then use your pliers, and you flatten out the edges so that they lay flat across the jar. So I use my hot glue gun. I didn't use E6000 or anything. I use Gorilla Glue glue sticks, and that worked fine. And I mean, it held on right away, and so that's what I use all the time. And I say it all the time. That's really the only hot glue I use. So I went ahead and I glued both those handles onto the side, and it, like I said, it glued on really quickly, and that's it for that part. And then I did end up touching up that lid because I noticed the color was kind of off from the lid to the jar. I did them separately, so now I noticed that the color is a little off, so I did go back and fix that. So I've had these labels for a while. A friend of mine gave these to me some time back, and I had a sheet left, so I decided to just put that on there. I was gonna get my Cricut out and try to do that and put some wording on there, but then I saw my little sticker labels, and I decided that would be cute. So I put one of those on there. I didn't write anything on it because I couldn't, number one, I couldn't think of anything, and number two, I kind of wanted to just leave it like that. I liked the way it looked. So I let the other jar dry with the that had the chalk paint on it. Then I'm going back in with my Waverly wax, my antiquing wax, and I just put a layer of it on there. I wanted it to look like wood. I wanted it to look like a wood jar. And so I don't know how everybody feels about watching the painting process. So I did go through the painting process with the white chalk paint, and I wasn't sure how everybody feels. I know some people like to watch the painting process, some people don't. So I just decided to only do part of the waxing part. These are the chip brushes from Dollar Tree, and they always lose the bristles, and I still keep going back and getting them. But then I kind of noticed that all chip brushes do that, so I guess it really doesn't matter. So I get 2 of these at the Dollar Tree for $1, and I mean, chip brushes aren't too expensive anyway, but they're usually about $3, I guess, at the stores, at the hardware stores or whatever. So I just get mine from Dollar Tree, and I just buy a bunch of them and keep reusing them until the bristles fall out, and then get a new one. So like I said, I went ahead and I gave this a little coat of the wax, and I did the lid and the jar, and then I had to let that dry. I do have a heat gun. I use it sometimes, and sometimes I just kind of let things dry naturally because I notice some paints crack. They start to have that crackle effect, and I do not like that. So I don't use the heat gun that often. Usually I'll just kind of take my time, let it dry, and whatever. So again, that's optional. You can use your blow dryer or whatever. And if you're I'm usually pretty impatient, but I'm usually also working on several projects at once, so I have time to let things dry while I'm working on other things. So I'm going to set this off to the side and let it dry while I work on a different project. And I don't know why this is, I thought I cut all of this out, but I guess I didn't. Like I said, I don't know how everybody feels about painting and all that stuff. And I have to close my paints when I'm done because I am clumsy and my paint will end up all over the place. All right, so for my next one, I'm going to set this off to dry. My next one, I'm using this candle jar that I got from either Marshall's or TJ Maxx or Home Goods or whatever. You can get those. This is one of the bigger jars. I'm using this Waverly chalk paint. I think it's lavender. And I already had cleaned this with alcohol, got all the stuff off of it. This took 2 layers, I believe. 2 layers over most of it, and then I did an extra thin coat over these words just to make sure that they were covered. And I have paint all over my hands, and then I realized it's not just from my crafts. We've been painting around the house, so I have paint all in my nails, all over the place. I'm sorry, got distracted there because I noticed it like on my nails and stuff. But anyway, so I did go ahead and give this 2 coats, and like I said, then I gave it a coat over the words just to make sure that they were covered. Excuse me. And I was going to antique, like make the lid look like wood. And then once I started, I did not like it. I figured I would go with white. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it was going on there. It was sucking it up. I didn't like it. So I wiped it off and decided to go with the white chalk paint. And these are the little, I don't know what they're called. I think they're something charms, some kind of charms. I got them at the Dollar Tree, these little round pieces in like the wreath floral section. And they had a few different ones, and they were just the right size for this jar. So I decided to use it as a lid. And like I said, I was going to wax it, and then I didn't like the way it looked. So we're going to go ahead. I had to let that dry because it was wet. So I'm going to go ahead with my white chalk paint and put 2 coats of that on there, because like I said, that wax part was not cutting it. It just wasn't working. So I think this bottle of chalk paint is getting old because it was very clumpy and it wasn't covering very well. And I don't know what's going on with my video here, but it's like in slow motion on my end. I don't know if that's how it's going to come out on your end, but it looks kind of crazy over here. But anyway, I believe I did 2 coats of the chalk paint on this, because that wood, whatever, it might be MDF or something, it's just sucking up the paint. So I ended up having to put a couple coats of that on there. And yeah, that was it for that. I also used a little bead as kind of the topper on it. And here's my heat gun. Now, don't do what I'm doing. Do not hold the piece in your hand and use the heat gun. The heat gun is very hot. I don't know why I was doing that. I think I was just trying to hurry up and figured it was going to be quick. And yeah, no, that's hot. So don't do what I do. Put the piece down somewhere and then use the heat gun on it. Sometimes I do some very interesting things while I'm crafting. So please excuse my not so smart crafting techniques today. So I did another coat, and like I said, it was just sucking this stuff up, but I didn't need it to be perfect. I just wanted to cover up that the brown part of it. And I did leave the other side with the little butterfly on it, just in case I wanted to use it, in a different, in another craft. It is a cute little butterfly. I didn't want to cover it up. So I didn't. So then what I did was I painted my little bead, and I painted it white, and I hot glued it to the lid just so that, I could have something to open it up with. And I also took some hot glue and I made a ring around the inside, or the part that has the butterfly on it. I took some hot glue and I made a circle around, just how do I explain it? Just a little how do I describe it? I made a hot glue gun circle on the inside of the lid, just so that when I put it on there, it doesn't move around. Don't put it on the lip of it. You want to put it on kind of on the inside of the jar, so that it's like a little lip and it goes inside the jar. I hope that made sense. I don't know how I was trying to describe it, but see, so how it's just a little bit, further in from the edge of the circle piece. And then that way it has a lip and you can just use it as a lid. I thought it was really cute. I like the colors, and it works out perfectly. So I didn't know what kind of, I was going to use some stickers. I wasn't sure. I was being really indecisive about this part of it. Sticker, do I want to paint it? Do I want to write on it? I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I ended up using one of these chalk labels and putting it on one side. And then I put a little sticker on the lid just to kind of give it a little bit of an accent. I also didn't know what sticker I wanted to use on the wood grain one. Then I thought maybe I'll just leave it plain. And I was going to use one of these little circle ones that I thought would be cute. But then it had like a little hole. I didn't realize that it was like a, kind of like a, not a label, but like a hanging label. It had this cute little hole. I was being so indecisive. And maybe this is why I don't, do stickers and stuff a lot on camera, because I tend to go back and forth and I can't decide which ones I want to use. So anyway, I digress. I ended up using this little butterfly circle sticker on the wood grain one, and I ended up using the chalk sticker on the purple one, and I put just a little sticker on the lid, just like I said, to give it an accent on there. And yeah, that was it for that one. And it was kind of weird. I couldn't find like the center of it. I was a little off. But anyway, I wrote the word cotton on there with my chalk marker, and that is it. And then when you see the pictures of this jar on the other side, I did decide to put another sticker on there just in case I wanted to switch it up. I could just turn it around, and then I have kind of a whole nother jar. So I did put the cotton sticker on that side, and I didn't put anything on the sides of this one. And this is by far my favorite one. I love how this little milk can came out. I think it's absolutely perfect, and it's going to look great in my china cabinet or my hutch. And then if you notice on the milk can, I did go back and like fix the lid color, and I rusted out the edges. So thanks for watching, and be the reason someone smiles. Bye guys.